So, dear colleagues, dear guests, dear national champions, dear international champions, which you will discover later on, welcome to this new edition of the Frontiers Planet Prize, where we bring together for the third time now, we started in 2022, groundbreaking science from across the globe that can help us to keep the planet on a healthy track. Because that's the mission of the Frontiers Planet Prize, to bring forward annually the best science around the globe that can help us staying within the 9 planetary boundaries which are so vital for our planetary health and which you will get explained later on by Johan Rockström. We launched this prize because we wanted to detect that science. But our vision was very clear. We immediately wanted to make it at the best possible level. We wanted to be sure that the maximum amount of institutions participate, that the best science was put forward, that we got a huge response. And I'm quite proud to say that I think we achieved it. That's why we call ourselves, and I will explain you the full title in a second, a Nobel Prize. But what sets the prize apart is not that it is a Nobel Prize as such, it's a Nobel Prize with a mission. It's a Nobel Prize where we look for things, for science, that can solve this gigantic challenge that is the planetary crisis. That's why we call it a Nobel Prize for Sustainability, in all modesty. And you will hear this afternoon, in the different speeches, you will hear from the scientists. You can read it on the posters that you find in the corridors, the groundbreaking search they do and the impact it has on making our planet better, on saving lives even. Camilla will speak on it later on, and on really doing the right thing. But we also wanted this prize to inspire other scientists to do more, to inspire anyone who is working on this topic to do the utmost. And I'm very pleased to show you this slide. Because what you see here behind me, those articles of the national champions that were published received, compared to their peers in that domain, 34 times more citations than any other article. So you're not only saving, I'm looking now at the national champions, you're not only saving the planet, it's also good for your career. You get cited much more. But think of it. You can really combine the two goals here, what drives you, science and having an impact on the planet. Last year, the title for our ceremony was No Time to Waste. 1 year later, there still is less time to waste. According to the recent analysis of the WMO, we will even exceed the critical 2 degrees above industrial levels, pre-industrial levels, within the next 5 years. We will exceed it. And that's only one planetary boundary. If you look at the evolution of the boundaries, how it goes, you can see that, unfortunately, every 5 years or every time we have an update, the picture is more and more red, meaning we are going in the wrong direction. So there is no time to waste. Confronted with this reality, what are our choices? The easiest choice is we ignore it. We question the evidence, we invent a conspiracy theory, a complot, so that we make sure nothing happens and that we can go on with business as usual. Some leaders, mostly in Western countries, by the way, think of it, take this approach. A bit like when we were faced with COVID. So you see the increase of skepticism as a manifestation of this. We cannot do something about it. Let's be simply cynical. Let's ignore it. But as a scientific community, and all of you are in one way or another trained as a scientist at one point, and if you look at the data which thousands of scientists have validated, we know much better. And inventing a conspiracy will not solve the problem, let alone will make it worse. Second option, we have 3 options, like all good things. Second option, we accept the planetary prizes. We assume it's inevitable. We do that because we think to remedy it, the task is too huge, so let's just accept it. That's how the world goes, unfortunately. And that is unfortunately something that I hear more and more. When I was at a quite prestigious and high-level Financial Times conference 3 weeks ago, where the world of finance and climate science was brought together, I heard too much, to my appreciation, this point of view that 2 degrees is inevitable, let's accept it, but not, as Johan and the colleagues explain, as a temporary overshoot, but as something definitive. Often this attitude of, let's make the best out of it, goes hand in hand with a retreat behind the borders, hoping someone else will do it, hoping someone else will solve it. That again goes against everything that drives science. If scientists would have been nationalistic, if they would have been fatalistic the last 300 years, so to speak, never ever would we have eradicated hunger, never ever would we almost eradicated child mortality, never ever would we have invented the steam engine, electricity, biodegradable plastic. In one word, never ever would we have been and have seen the progress our societies have made the last 300 years. And that is what it is all about. It is possible to do this change. Because all this progress of the last 300 years, think of it, 300 years is only a few generations, has been made possible because somewhere someone had a bright idea, most often in a laboratory or at the university. So therefore, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, everyone assembled here today, there is only one choice left in view of the data, in view of the problem, in view of the magnitude, and that is not to hide the way, the title of today, no place to hide. Not to hide away and assume our responsibility as community, as businesses, and as policymakers. And this against fatalism, cynicism, or defeatism. Our only choice left actually is to do more and much more. Because we have no longer the luxury not to do it. If we take 2050, 25 years, as our horizon, we just have one generation to make a difference. Let me rephrase it and please, so that it sinks in very carefully. All of you in this room will witness the beginning of a dangerous and irreversible decline, the choice of fatalism, or the emergence of a redesigned Anthropocene inspired by the science that you will hear here today, and of course not only the 19 winners, but the gigantic community that is working on it. It's a huge task to reverse decline into an opportunity. It's a huge task, but we can do it, and it is not so exceptional if you look at it in history. As humanity, we have invented ourselves several times. Agrarian, pre-industrial, industrial, up to the knowledge society, and so on. Every time this profound change was facing skepticism, fatalism, resistance, fear, or, like some like to call it now, every time it went hand in hand with a polycrisis. Different as now, but it was so. Think of the early resistance against tractors. Think of the resistance against the internet. Think of the resistance against railways and so on. So it is a fixed fact in history. Well, this time it's not different. Facing what we have to do, we face resistance. We even have a chief denier and cynic in command of the most powerful nation of the world. It's not helping us what is happening in the US, but it's only the US. There are many more countries in the meantime that are very active, very powerful, where fantastic science is happening. And an inconvenient scientific truth, we know that, tells us that even chief deniers don't stay in power forever. Moreover, most of the global population still supports what you are doing, still supports more policy, more science for climate action. All kinds of global censuses show you that the majority of the population wants this to be addressed in one way or another. The European Commission, which is still one of the largest open markets in the world, it's difficult, but they are still on track for the Green Deal. They are on track for meeting the 2030 emission targets. Not bad. China is electrifying at breakneck speed. And yes, indeed, we will even be eating vegetarian here for the coming 3 days. And that's important. Yeah? It makes you smile, but think of it, it's important because a generation ago, it would have been unthinkable that you bring together 300 people and you eat veggie only for 3 days. Simply, when I was a young researcher, that was completely impossible. Actually, you were a kind of an exception. A generation ago, also, no one would have believed in the power of renewables to be at competitive par with the classical fossil fuel-based energy systems. A generation ago, no one would have believed that electric cars would be now dominant in certain countries and be the highest proportion of new sales in Europe this year. So a generation can make the difference. We only have one generation, but we can make the difference. And that's one of the key messages that we want to give you today. We don't hide away because we can make the difference. It is possible on condition that we join forces. And that is where the prize, the Planet Prize, the foundation comes in. We want to help you. We want to stimulate this acceleration of knowledge, of bringing together the science. We want to do it so that in the generation that is before us, we find the way out of the decline and we face the reconstruction. The research you will hear this afternoon is just the tip of the iceberg of the enormous energy and ingenuity that scientists of the world are already displaying in doing this. It's not exceptional. There are thousands and thousands of scientists working on ways forward, on solutions, and so forth. So what you will hear this afternoon is their passion, and what you will hear is their way not to hide away. Fantastic. Not everyone can stand on the podium. Someone has to do the laboratory work. And as Frontiers Research Foundation, you have our commitment. We will not hide away as long as we have no time to waste. Meaning, count on us. We will continue doing what we do. We will continue doing more. We will continue this prize so that you can benefit from the most interesting insight from throughout the world. So, let's begin this afternoon by inviting the Vice President of the Frontiers Research Foundation, who made all this possible. Without the success of the scientific publishing company of which he is the CEO, this would not have been happening. There would not have been a foundation, there would not have been a prize, there would not have been 3 million around to divide to the fantastic brains that are here today. So I really like to thank Camilla Markram and the whole team that made this possible, including the people that started Frontiers years ago, and invite you on stage.